Hello everyone, my name is Aaron Christensen. This is Horror 101 with Dr. AC, celebrating classic horror throughout history with new episodes every Friday night. In 1970, Mexican cinema delivered one of its most delightfully chaotic spectacles, Santo y Blue Demon Contra los Monstruos, or Santo and Blue Demon versus the Monsters, a film that perfectly captures the wild genre-blending energy of the Lucha Libre boom. Starring two of Mexico's most iconic masked wrestlers, El Santo and Blue Demon, the movie drops its legendary heroes into a plot that's equal parts classic horror, sci-fi pulp, and pure wrestling fantasy. It's a world where monsters roam freely, mad scientists hatch improbable schemes, and every problem can be solved with a well-timed flying dropkick. Set against the backdrop of Mexico's vibrant popular culture landscape, the film represents a moment when lucha cinema was not just entertainment, but a full cultural phenomenon. Santo and Blue Demon weren't simply action stars. They were larger-than-life folk heroes, symbols of justice, strength, and a certain earnest charm that defined a generation of fantastic cinema. Their adventures bridge comic books, wrestling arenas, and the silver screen in a way that continues to connect with fans worldwide. Even within that tradition, Santo y Blue Demon Contra los Monstruos stands out by cramming an entire Monster Mash universe into its brisk 85-minute runtime, showcasing vampires, werewolves, mummies, a Frankenstein monster, and a cyclops creature, each rendered with a mix of camp, creativity, and low-budget ingenuity. And more importantly, beneath rubber suits and pulpy plot twists is a film that speaks to the joy of genre filmmaking, an unapologetic celebration of fantasy, action, and playful spectacle. Today, the movie has become a cult classic, at least at my house, beloved not just by lucha enthusiasts, but by fans of global genre cinema, who appreciate the value of low art as well as high. Its earnestness, creativity, and sheer audacity makes it a perfect artifact to revisit, discuss, and appreciate more than 5 decades later. Happy Turkey Day, everybody. We're going to be heading south of the border for a fantastic 55th anniversary celebration of Santo y Blue Demon Contra los Monstruos. And we have an amazing panel to chat about it with me. Let's bring everybody in and let's say hello to John Kitley.
Good morning.
Beaming in from Portugal, Jorge Didaco.
Hello, everyone.
Down the street in Chicago, Raul Benitez.
Good morning, everyone. Happy to be back.
A longtime supporter of turkeys, Dave M. Gray.
Hello.
And returning to the feast table after a long absence, Robin Graves.
Hey, I didn't hold this up by 10 minutes with my nose in a book. What's up, everybody?
And we're going to be chatting about Santo y Blue Demon Contra los Monstruos from 1970, also known as Santo y Blue Demon versus the Monsters. And there are some sources that say this is 1969, so it's either celebrating its 55th or 56th anniversary. And we'll be talking spoilers, although there's no way you can spoil this movie. It needs to be experienced. Thanks for coming on the show, everybody, and welcome. John, I'm glad to have you in pole position because you are the host of a long-standing tradition. I'll let you explain that to our viewers.
Our Turkey Day marathons, I started back in 2003, and I started it on the Black Friday. So instead of being out in the masses trying to spend money on stuff you didn't need, I decided to spend the day watching what I call cinematic shipwrecks. But they're not bad movies. They're just misunderstood, or their hearts are in the right place. They either just didn't have the budget or the talent or all of the above. But at the end of the day, they're pretty damn fun. So I did it for a couple of years by myself. AC's joined me in 2005. And now we get anywhere from 8 to 15 people. And we also do one in May as well. It's usually a bunch of fun.
Yeah, I realized this was going to be my 20th anniversary of the first Turkey Day at your place. So super psyched. What's your first experience with Santo?
I knew about his films quite some time ago, but I never got around to seeing them, probably because just the availability of them. You had to get bootlegs and probably they weren't going to be in English. But I would say within the last 5 or 6 years, because a lot of these releases got in either a box set that VCI put out, and then some other ones started getting to release. Indicator, I think, put out one. I've just been diving into these and eating them up, and god damn, are they entertaining.
George, how about you? How did you come to Santo?
First, I want to say that I'm not that knowledgeable in Turkeydom, but I learned a lot from the old EMDB forum, from you, from Psychotronic Beatnik. You people taught me a lot about the Turkey Wonders. And I think the first time I saw a Santo was ages ago, The Vampire Woman. Like many people, I think it was the first experience with a Santo movie. And I remember saying something quite erratic at the time because I went with a friend and he was already a luchador expert and saw lots of Santo films. And I said something that I think I prefer The Vampire Woman than Santo himself. The fighting sense, drag from it down. The Vampire Woman much more interesting, and he nearly killed me that time. but I came to find pleasure in the lucha scene stuff also.
Awesome. Raul, welcome back. How'd you come to Santo for the first time? I know you have a history with this film.
Since I'm Mexican, Santo is an idol, Mexican idol. He actually has 2 statues in Mexico. He has a family museum in his hometown. I was exposed to Santos because my dad used to take me to double features when we lived in Mexico City when I was a kid. The first film was always a sex comedy, and then they would show the Santo film after the sex comedy. So as a 12-year-old, I had to watch the sex comedy first, and I had no clue about any of the jokes. But it led me to the Santo stuff. So I never got to see El Santo Russell. I've been to Estadio Arena in Mexico City many, many times, as well as the wrestling ring in Guadalajara, where some people say is the birth of Mexican wrestling. Obviously, I'm very familiar with El Santo. I know for sure I've seen this one in the movie theater. This movie is a different production company. This is Sotomayor Productions, which they were after in the 60s, a lot of these B-movie film production companies started popping up. And El Santo initially started his career with the Calderon films, where he made the first 2 films with them. And he did subsequent films with the Calderon family. But then he started going toward where anybody would pay him, he would show up in a movie. So at this point, like Sotomayor Productions were kind of like hurting, and they had reached out to El Santo, and so he decided to do this movie. And he's done other movies with Blue Demon as well, but this movie was like the tail end of that company's history, and it shows in the production quality of the film. This film was very, very popular. All Santo movies, no matter what quality of the film or who made them, people came out in droves to see El Santo because he's national icon. So it didn't really matter how bad this movie looked or was or whatever. People did not care. They wanted to see him.
We'll get more into the history of this film as we go deeper into the panel. Dave, tell us how you came to Santo for the first time.
It's always the same. Well, okay, there's 2 answers when you ask me this. One is Mystery Science Theater. It's not that time. It's WDCA, the local DC station. There were 4 Santos dubbed into English as Samson, and they showed them all.
And do you remember what your reaction was?
Well, it was the 1980s, man. There was Hulk Hogan and Santo, and that was it for me. I watched one, and then the other played immediately after on the same network. It was great.
And Robin, how about you?
Yeah, I grew up in a trailer park, so I was a very big wrestling fan as a kid. And my stepdad was Colombian, and so I was around a lot of like Latin American kids, and they got me into Lucha Libre. And one of my friends was like, "Okay, but do you know about El Santo?" Because he knew I was into monster movies and stuff. And I'm like, "No." So he puts me on to like in a Museo de Cera. I'm waking up, so my Spanish is really bad today. And like Santo versus the Zombies and the Martian Invasion and all that stuff. And I was so into the wrestling meets Batman meets horror movie kind of thing going on, and it just like totally set me onto a path to like find everything I could of this guy. I think the first one I got all the way through, and it was one of the early things I hosted with Lucy, was Santo and Blue Demon versus the Mummies of Guanajuato. And it's got like Mil Mascaras in there, and it's just incredible. It's so much fun. Like, I don't know how you can watch these and not have a great time. And like Raul was talking about, like, and my husband now is Mexican, and it's like very hard to overstate the like cultural impact of El Santo and Blue Demon in Mexico. Like in TJ, there are murals everywhere of that Blue Demon mask. It's wild.
Nice. Yeah. As George referenced, there was a thing on the IMDb message board called The Great Turkey Hunt. All through the month of November, you'd be watching these movies, these turkeys that had, I think, a 4.0 rating or lower. And so you got certain points. If you did multiple directors, you got more points. And it was a great exposure to a lot of psychotronic cinema in combination with the turkey days that I was having with John. So I feel very versed now in that realm, but I hadn't seen a Santo movie until this one in 2007 as part of the turkey hunt. Somebody referenced it. And, I think like that year, like a bunch of people were watching Santo movies as getting their trifecta. And I watched Santo Blue Demon, Contra los Monstruos, and I was blown away. Like you said, Robin, it's the perfect combination of like superhero and monster movie and wrestling. And it's so much energy. And yes, this is kind of lower down the tier of quality of movies, as Raul was referencing. But I think that just lends to the charm because you've got these monsters that, look like they were put together with 250 in a dream. And it's just delightful. I was sitting there watching with my mouth hanging open going, how have I never experienced this before? It's truly one of my favorite movies to keep coming back to because I instantly feel like I'm 8 years old again. And I found out that my wife and I probably would not have dated if we were both 8 years old because she was like, yeah, I'm going to go now. And I'm like, where are you going? Like, this movie's amazing. And she's like, yeah, but not for me. And I'm like, okay, bye. See you.
That's more oiled up dudes in a ring for me.
That's why no dumb girls are allowed into the clubhouse. So yeah, let's talk about, as Raul was mentioning, Santo is a huge, huge pop culture icon in Mexico. I'm going to bounce back to you, Raul, just to give us a little bit more background, just because you're going to probably know it better than I. I've got some supplemental notes as we're assisted by Jonathan Ross, who used to run the Incredibly Strange Film Show. He did an episode on Santo as well.
How about I start with how he got into film? I happens to be friends with Viviana Garcia Besne, who's the granddaughter of Jose Calderon, who started Calderon Films. He is the one that got Santo to be in movies. What happened was when they started their film production company, he thought he would approach Santo to be in 2 movies that he wanted to make. And so he went to a fight that Santo was at Arena Mexico in Mexico City, and Santo was in the bathroom stall. And so he knocked on the Santo's bathroom stall. He's like, hey, I want to propose something to you, but I'll wait till you're done. And then El Santo was like, no, you're going to tell me right now what you want. And so he's like, well, I want to make these movies. I want you to be in them. We're going to film them in Cuba. What do you say? And so he agreed. And so there was 2 other previous wrestling films before they made these first 2 with El Santo. And they went to Cuba to film these 2 first films. Viviana, the granddaughter, restored those films, which I showed at the Music Box in 2019. So that basically kicked off his film career. And, he started off his career with Calderon. And, those first 2 films, they were made in Cuba because it saved them money. During the filming of the second film, the Cuban Revolution happened. And so it saved them because he owed the Cuban government at the time money because he was doing these film productions. And then because Castro overthrew the government, he didn't own any more money. And so he decided, but he needed to get out of Cuba, obviously, because the revolution was literally happening. So what they did was they put the film prints in a coffin. Nice. Because they knew that they wouldn't expect the coffin when they were leaving. Because us Latins were all superstitious about everything, so that's how they snuck those films out of Cuba to Mexico. The interesting thing is that that's one of the last films that actually had views of old Cuba before the revolution. Also, the second film used parts of the first film because they ran out of money to finish the second film, so they just kind of used shots from the first one into the second film. They also ran out of money to do the special effects. So there's some scenes in the second film where there's some gunshots, but you don't hear any gunshots. And our screening in 2019, we told the audience to make gunshot sounds when
that's awesome.
When they were shooting. But that's basically how Santo started film. He was already a big icon already then. He had a really popular comic book line that was involved in. And so he was already an icon, and the film catapulted into the stratosphere.
You think that's where Lloyd Kaufman got the idea to just reuse footage all the time? I mean, it worked for these guys, right?
Oh, no, there were other filmmakers doing that quite a bit. If you watch the Universal later Mummy series. Like the second one, half of that movie is from the first one, and they just continued to do that. So
that's cool. I got to check that out. The Mummy's like my blind spot in the Universal like classic canon.
As Raul was mentioning, like Santo, once he got his career going in 1958, he did 53 movies from 58 to 1982. His big breakout was 1961's Santo versus Los Zombies. And then the following year was 1962's Santo versus the Vampire Women. And that was the one, Davey, you said that you saw in its Samson version. He was known as Samson here in the US. But that one is how a lot of people did come to it, because there was an MST3K episode that showcased Samson versus the Vampire Women. Do you remember like your reaction to seeing Santo for the first time? And like, were you just like, this is the greatest thing ever?
Yeah, I mean, it was the 80s. I was a diehard Hulkamaniac, and I was waiting for that to start when Santo came on for the first time, and it blew my mind. The mask. You know what I love more than anything? The mask in that leisure suit. He's got the sport jacket and the turtleneck. That is, to me, that is like the epitome of cool design, and it still is. I have not aged in certain ways, but yeah, it was everything. And they, from what I remembered, it's rusty and creaky and old up there. But I remember they showed all four really close together, and I was hooked after that.
For those who aren't aware, like it'd be like if Batman just wandered around in his tuxedo at his various, Bruce Wayne functions, because Santo is Santo all the time. There's no alter ego. He's just Santo, which is also just makes him even cooler that he's just presenting his costume visage as himself. Well, he's like, no, this is it.
That's like a big Lucha Libre thing. Like they are super committed to like where, American pro wrestlers, like they're in on the gimmick for sure. But you see Mark Calloway and that's the Undertaker, but he's not being the Undertaker. And if you see like a luchador in their mask in public, they are presenting the character hard. And that's one of the things that drew me into Lucha Libre, is they're still so like devoted to like the kayfabe side of things. If I didn't just lose half the audience for you by talking kayfabe.
We're talking Santo, dude. Everybody went, oh yeah.
yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah.
George, you mentioned that the horror aspects were more appealing to you than the wrestling aspects of
I
it.
couldn't care less about stunt. When I saw Vampire Woman, stunt was not the main attraction for me, much less the fighting scenes. It was the Vampire Woman. Lorena Velasquez, fetching, sultry, luscious. It was the Vampire Woman that attracted me. Santo, my appreciation for Santo, Mil Mascaras, Blue Demon, etc. Neutral, which I love, came very later. And I came to appreciate the Lucha films. Unlike Robin, I never cared about the fighting, the Lucha Libre scenes. I never watched any game in my life. And it was much later when I understood the meshing and the way they combine things. Sometimes in the most ludicrous ways, they inserted the arena, and it was the way they mixed the things that I started to appreciate more later. And I think Monstruos was one that gave me the fun aspect of it.
It's like the Godzilla films from like the 70s.
I think that's it. It's a destroyer of all monsters of Santo films.
John, were you a wrestling fan, since we haven't touched on which side you came in on?
Yes, back in the, I don't even know the dates, maybe the late 90s, the end of WCW. But I will say the thing that really got me into, because like George, the wrestling part was kind of always boring in the beginning when I first tried to get into them, but I love the monsters and I love the absurdity that Santo, like you guys said, he's in a formal dress at a dinner with his mask on. It was just so fun. But the wrestling, they're actually wrestling. They're fighting. If you watch what they call wrestling now, there's 10 minutes of blah, 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 and this, and then they'll do one. So I started watching some of these older ones, and I'm like, okay, these guys are actually wrestling. They're really putting the effort in and stuff. So that got me into the other half of the Santo movies, not just the monsters. It's like they made no apologies on what they were going to do.
Yep.
Whether like in this film with the cyclops costume, or the fact that there's a little brain alien off to the side that I think is the same character from Ship of Monsters. It's just in there, no bearing on the plot. Or another one of my favorite ones is I think the title is El Santo versus the Killers from Outer Space, which is a blob, which is a bunch of guys underneath a tarp. and it's you watching this and you're like, they are completely committed to this. And that's what I give all of these films and the filmmakers. They were never winking at the camera. They were playing it straight. And when you get past that and you realize what they're doing, man, it is so much fun.
Yeah.
And have you ever tried to wink in a lucha mask? They're really tight. It's kind of tough.
Maybe you just can't see it.
I think the wrestling is kind of a great, it provides the glue, because when you look at the monster mashes from Universal, you have Frankenstein and the Wolfman. What are they doing? They're wrestling. They're fighting their way around a laboratory. And it's like, well, yeah, why not have a masked wrestler who fights the monsters in the same way that Dracula and Wolfman have fought? Because I grew up watching All-Star Wrestling, which was in the pre-Hulk Hogan days, because I'm old. And I remember, Saturday and Sunday mornings where you'd get in that square circle with, Baron von Raschke with his claw. This is amazing. As you said, John, these are athletes. They are throwing themselves around. There's some of the moves that are fake, and you can be like, well, he's not actually tearing his eye out. The way they fly off the turnbuckles and off the ropes, they do some of those leg hooks where they're flipping each other. This is awesome. So yeah, for a monster kid like me, wait, I can have wrestling and I can have monsters at the same time.
Where do I sign? And
this movie, I think, is a wonderful distillation of that crazy 70s Godzilla energy, of the wrestling, of the sheer absurdity of a superhero that runs around in a sports car and kisses his babe with his mask on. Like, this is all just a perfect 8-year-old dream for me.
And you talk about the athletics part of it. Have any of you guys ever run ropes before?
Yes.
Yeah, that shit hurts.
Yes.
That's no joke. Even just coming off the ropes and running back in hurts. You'll get bruises. Yeah.
So getting to our movie at hand. Yeah, I know we're only 25 minutes in here. So here's the plot of Santo and Blue Demon, Contra los Monstruos. So you got a mad scientist, Bruno Halder, who's been known for resurrecting dead bodies via brain transplants. He dies under mysterious circumstances. Halder is the brother of Otto Halder, who happens to be the father of our blonde Gloria Halder, who is the main squeeze of the man in the silver mask, Santo. And after Bruno is revived by his diminutive Miguelito Loveless assistant, he brings back a bunch of other, I'm guessing, former wrestlers as zombies. And then he goes about resurrecting Dracula, Frankenstein. Dracula puts the bite on 2 vampire women. We've got this amazing kind of creature from the Black Lagoon knockoff in the Cyclops, who's my favorite monster in this whole movie. I just love how he screams and yells. And we also have the Mummy, and we have Wolfman. Did I leave anybody out? There's a whole bunch of monsters in this movie. Plus you got Blue Demon, who's another Mexican wrestling icon. Speaking to this movie in particular, what are your feelings about it?
I love it, or I wouldn't be here. But I want to talk about my favorite part since you mentioned him. I love the Cyclops.
Yes.
Well, I love the vampire too, and I'll get into that.
Oh no, the vampire is definitely right there.
Made this massive paper mache outfit and made him aquatic. And I love it.
That actually has never occured to me until just now.
I love the let's go put on a show aspect, and they embrace it in this. They embrace it so hard. Now, it's probably been done before, but it's the first time I can think of. They shoot through a fish tank full of water with air bubbles to make the Cyclops underwater, while cutting to Santo swimming, full leisure suit, mask.
Hell yeah.
Totally unable to see in the murkiest fucking pond they could find.
The drip waits for nobody. The turtleneck stays on.
I love it. And then he comes out totally dry and they wrestle. Pure cinema. It is some of the best stuff, because that's just, I don't give a fuck. Let's make our movie. I have nothing but respect for that. No matter where it shows up or how it shows up, it's beautiful.
George. How about you? What are some favorite moments from this movie?
I love every single one of the monsters. Frankenstein. That makeup of Frankenstein. It looks like Cantinflas with the mustache and all. It's one of the most amazingly bad makeups ever put on film. That poor thing. Not to mention that the mummy. That it's like a grandpa wrapped in gauze and pale gauze because he's completely pale. It's the most pale mummy ever put on film. I love the vampire too. I like Waldo, the little person henchman, which is not monster, but I love his first apparition. It looks like Oddjob. At first I thought, is this a mention of Oddjob? The green zombies, living dead. It's completely chaotic, and that's what attracts us. I love them all, but my favorite perhaps is the Wolfman. I think it's the most violent, the most serious, the most terrifying. I think I love the El Hombre Lobo.
John?
Every one of these monsters is fun. I mean, the way that Dracula runs with his arms out all the time. It does remind you of like the old-fashioned Universal stuff where there went, we're just going to have, we got two more. Let's bring those guys in too. We'll just throw them in. If you'd ever think that you were going to see the mummy character fighting, I mean, really fighting, because we all grew up with him just moving really slow and strangled someone. Here he is fighting a wrestler. So it just goes back to the absurdity of what the hell am I watching? But yet you're still entertained and you're still having a great time. The makeup is always entertaining. That and the set designs. And again, as a kid, if you're watching this stuff, you'd be eating this up because here's this secret lab in a cave, and he's got all this electrical equipment that who knows what it actually does, or honestly, probably how safe it is. And you got all your favorite monsters in there, and plus ones that you didn't even know about. So I loved it.
Raul?
From what I understand, most of the money went to that electronic set. And then they destroyed all at the end. They spent the money on that instead of makeup. And then they destroyed the whole set at the end of the movie. And there goes all their money. So I thought that was quite enjoyable when I learned that fact that, that's where most of the money went. Besides paying El Santo and Blue Demon to be in this movie. Blue Demon and El Santo, they have like no acting skills. But it didn't matter because they're there because they're icons. And they're there because they can wrestle and people love them. Like El Santo, like every movie you see, like all his lines he just says them the same way. Like sometimes there's some emotion in there or he yells, but they're kind of like just straight ahead. He says the lines because it's a sign of like no acting classes. Like they just gave him the lines and he just said them. And once in a while he'll throw some emotion in there. But my other favorite part of the film is he makes out with one of the vampire women, even though he already has a fiance. But
you're gonna pass up on the chance to make out with a vampire woman? Yeah, I mean, like, come on.
It's good to be the king.
He can make out whoever he wants with. It doesn't matter. It's El Santo.
Well, and you bring up a good point, Raul, that he'd been acting, such as it is, for 10 years at this point, and he did 5 movies in 1970. Santo was just an industry unto himself. Our director, actually, of this one, which I just recently found out, Gilberto Martínez Solares, he was actually a very well-respected Mexican film director. He directed tons of these comedies, and he was somebody who, this was him reaching a lower part of his career to descend to directing a Santo film. But I think he brings the energy to it. Like, he knows how to combine all of this so that there's never a moment that we relax, except for maybe during the nightclub sequence, which is clearly from another movie, but it's certainly not in the same restaurant.
The director made a bunch of comedies, and there's actually a famous comedian in this film. His nickname is Resortes, and he did a bunch of films for this production company as well, comedy films. But he's a famous comedian Alberto Martínez, a very famous and iconic comedian.
George, you have something you want to throw in?
Rumba, salsa, then immediately something Brazilian, a frevo appears out of nowhere. It's completely bonkers. It's one of the most absurd musical numbers ever put on film because it is completely incongruous. Nothing matches anything in musical terms, in choreographic terms, nothing. And I think it's in musical genre. It's already what the film is, a completely mashup of genres, of styles, of intentions, of motivated things, unmotivated things. It's all there in that incredible musical nightclub stuff. Because some films already, most of them have some nightclub dance sequences, musical numbers here and there. And I think this one is absolutely my favorite of them all because nothing matches nothing in musical terms, in choreographic terms, in dancing terms, in musical terms, nothing.
Well, yeah, it's funny because in that scene, they show them watching,
Right.
and they're not really watching anything. I think the director just told them like look straight ahead.
Yeah, look that way. We're gonna have something over there
their
for
faces are like clueless of what's going on. They're just looking at this out in space, which I think is quite funny.
And then the restaurant, like erupts into a big brawl. There's so much fighting in this movie. And I love that some of it is actually sanctioned. Like Dracula, it challenges El Santo to like a fight. So we're gonna have like a televised version of Santo fighting.
It's got to follow wrestling rules. You got to lay off the stip and you got to set the date, make sure everyone's there.
Cuts to the TV cameras. I love it. I love the ladies match at the beginning. They don't come back. They have nothing to do with anything.
Nope.
But here's some lady luchadoras, and fuck yeah.
I can't believe nobody has mentioned Bizarro Blue Demon yet.
No.
That is so gold. And the scene where, one, it's hilarious that anytime he's supposed to be like hauling ass, they have him driving reasonably, but they speed the shutter on the camera up or whatever to make him
skip frames. Yep.
Yeah. And it still doesn't look like he's going all that fast, but you get the idea. But he runs into Bizarro Blue Demon and those like zombie dudes, and they're fighting to protect his like lady friend. And Blue Demon beats the shit out of him and like goes to throw him off of the cliff. And he's supposed to be knocked out, but he's still like putting his hands out and like protecting his head as he's falling down the cliff. It's gold. It's so good.
Yeah, I love Bizarro Blue Demon. I love how they resolve it. They just open the lid and he's fine. He's like, yeah, let's fight. I don't care what he's been like locked up for 3 months in a tanning bed.
Yep.
And he's just like, yeah, let's fucking go. Come on.
He's a wrestler. You gotta put the time in the tanning bed.
Immediately ready to go.
Plus, it's a great idea how you get Blue Demon fighting Santo.
Yeah.
In the movie, there's both heroes, but yet we're gonna come up with a plot twist to change that until the very end when they all tag team together.
Which is so wrestling. It's so wrestling to have these guys that are buddy, and then Eddie Guerrero comes out and hits himself with a chair and throws it to the other guy while the ref isn't looking. And then the guy in the match wakes up and is like, you screwed my title shot. And then they fight at the next big pay-per-view. And then they're friends again when Vince McMahon does something stupid or whatever. Like, it's just so wrestling put in the dressing of a monster movie. It's awesome.
Santo, again, was a massive wrestling hero. WWE inducted him into their Hall of Fame. So, like, he's legit. And I think he's somebody that a lot of wrestling fans are aware of. And horror fans and psychotronic fans, I think, come to him a little bit later because he's a bit of a deeper cut. A lot of his movies didn't get sent over to the U.S. Very few of them had any kind of translation or subtitles or anything like that. It was just those 4 that came out as Samson. And those are the ones that Dave was referencing earlier.
Yeah, you kind of got to be Latin American or like one of the rockabilly guys, I feel like, to like be immediately plugged in.
Well, I saw him as a kid, and I hunt shit down all the time. I didn't even know there were more for decades.
Right. You just thought there was those 4. The dialogue's pretty incredible. He was also somebody who wrote a lot of these for Santo, but our producer, Jesus Solo Marier, he's kind of the one who had the idea, and I think Raul, you may have referenced him as somebody who said, you know what, let's get this latter-day Santo thing going on the cheap. The superhero who is basically just a crime fighter, like that's what he does. His role is to be on the side of good, and so that's why the cops will call him and be like, hey, I'm sorry to interrupt you eating dinner with your mask on. Can we go down, jump in the car and head down to the local cemetery or wherever we're going? because there's a lot of these Santo movies that aren't, horror related. He's just out there fighting crime. And so it's kind of fun to have, be like if Batman fought Dracula,
Which he does in a graphic novel.
And Raul referenced the comics because that's kind of how things really started. Was there was a comic book of Santo after he was already kind of a wrestling star in 1952, and that became a huge hit on newsstands. And they went, well, okay, so like he's a multimedia icon. But coming back to this movie, Alder, he's captured his brother and niece, and he's put them into their little stand-up shower stall. And he says, now I will disintegrate my niece, and you will suffer as you watch.
I like a guy that states what he's about to do, and is
awesome Bond villain. Yep.
Yeah, totally. Well, and as you know, our relatives are from Transylvania. I'm like, okay, that's convenient. Yeah, bring it on.
We should talk about our vampire because we showed some love early on. He gets to actually wrestle with Santo. In terms of like sheer power, we get the Cyclops and Frankenstein. They seem to really deliver the goods. Dracula is the one who gets featured.
Well, yeah, anytime when he shows up, he has to run with his arms out. And I love the fact that he's got that big top hat on, which kind of give a little wink to Coffin Joe. There's so many things in this movie that because there's so many monsters, the different way that they're fighting, it's just insane. If you would have told somebody years ago that there's going to be a movie where a wrestler is going to fight Dracula, Frankenstein, the mummy, a giant cyclops, you'd be like, what are you talking about? But it's not just this movie. He made a bunch of these.
Right.
And he's consistently entertaining on what he does. And the plots just it's kind of to get to the point where you don't even think about, well, that doesn't make sense. That plot doesn't. You're just like, oh man, he is going to kick ass later. He's going to come back. And I give a lot of credit to, I know they had no budget, like Raul mentioned, as far as the makeup and stuff, but goddamn, it's entertaining. And I love that the Cyclops' costume. And I know, again, it's the same one that was in the Ship of Monsters, and I think another one. But the close-ups with the mouth opening and closing and the eye lighting up, genius.
And he jumps at everything. Like that guy's he's got jumping in his blood. Arms fully out, fully committed. He broke something jumping past that camera at least once. Dude is all in. I love it with the ears. And
yes, I was going to say, he's got those weird bat ears. Because what I love about this one is the opening kind of parade of monsters.
Yeah.
It's like a reverse curtain call where you're going to meet everybody you're going to see in this movie.
It's like, keep your butt in the seat. They're coming.
Well, and I think that's it. It's like, how dare you go out and get popcorn when all of this awesomeness is coming your way?
You could miss him at any second. Don't. You can pay for the whole seat, but you only need the edge.
I like that.
It's kind of brilliant at beginning because they parade the monsters getting you ready for what's going to be in the movie. So in a way, that's kind of a brilliant move to do that.
And also that's kind of mirroring the wrestling world too, right? Like you have the big walk from the dressing room out to the ring and them standing around having the hoopla before the match actually begins. So
and then in this time, the card would have been posted near anywhere that's going to be hosting the event. So for like 2 weeks beforehand, you're like, oh, Hacksaw Jim Duggan is going to be up against like the Bushwhackers or whatever. And like that was what I think the industry term is the draw, so draws cash is knowing who's going to be there and what you might be able to expect.
I love that the whole thing is day for night shots.
Oh man. I haven't even talked about that yet.
They're filming from like noon to 3, and then Santo's got to go wrestle. So there's no actual night shots with him. There's like 1 or 2 with the car, I think.
Well, you have ones
with the vampire.
Like during the car ride, it goes from night to day to night to day.
When he's not on screen,
driving a long time.
They can be a little later, but I love it. I love the whole thing. And it's so obvious. They don't even try to hide it. It's just beautiful.
Yeah. They could have trimmed and said, you know what? We just don't get to show this whole car ride, but no, we're going to show the whole damn thing.
I love the chase. I love the chase. That's slow. They're going 4 miles an hour, and she just steps out to freedom. It is beautiful.
I think the monsters are the parade of monsters, because we have the main monsters parading themselves for us. But there's also the adjacent monsters. Now, that lovely brainy thing, the green zombies. There's all kinds of little adjacent things. I think we must praise a bit Raul Martínez Solares, the film's director of photography, because the enthusiasm he brings to the whole thing, to disguise the cheapness of the whole thing with those filters and effects on cameras. It does. I think his enthusiasm is one of the biggest pleasures of watching Monstruos, because he gives it all. He experiments with filters, with gels, with little tricky things here and there. I think he's a great cinematographer. He did many highbrow productions, and I think he brings a lot of enthusiasm to the whole thing. That's very, very infectious to watch.
And Solares, our director, I mean, he was a still photographer at the beginning of his career. Actually went out to Hollywood in the early 30s and shot a bunch of famous stars, and then was lured back to Mexico. Again, had a huge career. So I think, him and our DP are working together to create a visually interesting movie. Again, he knows that we need to move this along. So that's where the skip frames come in. He knows that we're going to want to have a monster mash like every reel. We want to have something happening action-wise all the time. And this movie just flies by. The energy of Santo is kind of its own thing, because, as you said, John, it doesn't make any sense that we have this guy in a silver mask, him just being our hero, and then it's taken as a given. No, he's never taking off his mask. He's going to be dating. He's going to be crime fighting. He's going to be wrestling. It's always going to be wearing the mask. And we just take that as given circumstances. And that seems outrageous, but that at the same time, there's a real sense of fun to that, of like, no, this is the world that we're in. And so anything can happen.
Yeah, it's like the Adam West Batman theater of the absurd thing, where like when you like crank the volume up to 11 and tear the knob off, it puts the audience in a position to be like, okay, I've either got to get on this ride,
right,
or I'm just not, because for it to work, you have to let go of a lot of like supposition and like,
what you think a movie should be.
Yeah. And you can't like look at it from any kind of lens of reality. You're like, okay, shark repellent bat spray. That makes perfect sense, right. I guess. Go on.
I've got, exactly. I've got that on my bat belt just in case I need it. Yeah. And lo and behold, I need it. And
what do you know? Yeah.
And I think, John, like that's kind of what we do with Turkey Day, right? Is like you have to be able to just willing to go for the ride. If you sit back and go, well, that's not good. That's a bad movie, or that's not how movies should behave. You're going to have a very long day.
Yeah. And I've always said that there's a synapse or something in your brain that has to pop before you can watch a movie and go, oh my God, this is hilarious. This is really entertaining. Because if, like, to Robin's point, if you're looking at it through a critical lens, you're going to go, this is insane. This makes no sense, blah, blah, blah. Right. But if you watch any of the Santo movies, they're action packed. There's no boring parts, but you get to that point where it's all about entertaining the audience. And if you get rid of the expectations of a serious movie, you're just there to have fun. That's what Santo was trying to do from the get-go, and all the makers of it. And as I said earlier, nobody's winking at the camera. Everybody is committed to making this picture. In a lot of the turkeys, I've always said, like, Sharknado is not a turkey because they were trying to make a bad movie. All of what we consider turkeys, these guys are trying their best to make what they can with what they have. Santo's films are incredible because he did exactly that. They may not have had a budget, but man, they were entertaining. They were action-packed, and you were going to see shit in there you never thought you would see before.
So, you're talking about these films, and the thing is, almost all these films, which are considered B movies, are actually wildly popular and watched by millions upon millions over the 30-year, 40-year course. The sad thing about this is the Mexican, like the government Mexican entity in Mexico, don't consider these films worthy to be saved. When my friend Viviana, who's the inheritor of these films of the Calderon family, And she found the archive of all these films. And I can show you pictures of the archive because I've been to it. She went to the film in Mexico to get money to restore these films, those Santo films. They refused to help her because they felt they weren't worthy of restoring or saving. And so she had to start her own nonprofit. And ironically, in the end, she got help from the Academy here in the United States to help restore those because our own government wouldn't restore these films. And then when I teamed up with her and I showed the first two movies that she restored, I actually was at the Cineteca Nacional in Mexico City, which is the national cinema palette, and they have a big archive there and everything. And I got a tour because I have friends that work there. And I told the programmers there, hey, I'm going to show these movies, I'm restoring these, these Santo movies. They had no interest.
Wow.
Like nothing. No interest in like even hearing about it. So it's like really unfortunate that the Mexican government itself, even though these movies were widely popular, watched by millions, and tons of these movies came out, they just were not interested in saving these films, which is very unfortunate. And so Viviana had to go on this campaign on her own to kind of save these movies. There's a lot of stuff going on with it because the copyrights for a lot of these films are up in the air because nobody knows who owns what. And now that Viviana is starting to get together what movies her family made, but she doesn't have the money to fight copyrights. The thing is, like the Indicator series has the first two movies. Those are actual, restorations from the prints that Viviana owns. Indicator actually has the official rights to those films. But I just wanted to throw that in there because it's important to know the context of these Santo films and how they relate to kind of like the film industry in Mexico.
Well, and also the idea of, VCI showing them, without the rights. I mean, I think that's worth pointing up as well. If VCI's release of them brings them greater exposure, because we've seen that throughout history where the bootleggers are the ones who keep the films alive so that they can get legit releases, restorations, and things like that. It's really kind of a double-edged sword where you go, we want to increase the awareness, but it'd be nice if we could do it through proper channels so that those who actually own the rights are being compensated as well.
Get their recompense, yeah.
Dave, I know you also do like a Turkey Day celebration of each November, but yours is kind of a different spin. Tell us a little bit about yours.
I do the worst movies that released in a year, from October to October. I've been doing it a little bit longer than John. I started mine in the late 90s. I've cried a lot. I'm going to cry a lot this year.
Do you have your lineup already?
I do. It's a big one. I think I'm going to spread it out over 3 days this time. Sometimes I do it in one, but we're doing a red one, the Amazon War of the Worlds, which is supposed to be like, folks were like, dude, that's how I'm going to end my run.
Is that the one that has like Ice Cube or whatever in it?
Ice Cube.
Yeah.
All done on a computer because they did it during COVID.
Yeah.
What we're doing, the Home, Pool Man, which we missed last year. We just ran out of time. Harold and the Purple Crayon, another carryover from last year. Mousetrap, one of the mini Mickey horror movies. In the Land of the Lost, Electric State, Fountain of Youth. We're doing a Jurassic Park, which everybody was like, you got to do the new Jurassic Park. And I was like, but that doesn't count. But okay, whatever.
Is it that low rated?
Yeah, that's so many.
People hated it.
The way I do it is none of these are my idea. I ask people what's the worst movies in the last year, and they tell me, and then I'll like if it's a tie with stuff, I'll go with like critic reviews also. But this was the #1 suggested film of the year. Everybody was like, "You've got it." The new Jurassic Park made me cry. So The Materialists, Bright Hard, Highest to Lowest, and The Wolfman. Fun times. I'm saving the new Strangers trilogy for next year when I can do all 3 at once.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah, bless your heart for that. Yeah.
And George, have you carried on any of our turkey hunt traditions?
Yes, I have planned. Don't kill me, please. But I have planned the David Dakota Edgar Allan Poe trilogy.
The David Dakota Edgar Allan Poe trilogy.
Yeah.
Like, I feel better about mine now.
I'm super excited, actually. And I do have also a Santo that I never saw, the Dr. Death, which I think is an anomaly because it's a co-production with Spain and everything. Yeah. But Santo versus Dr. Death, I will watch it too.
Nice.
That one's a fun one. And I guarantee whoever created the Austin Powers movies saw that because his time machine looks really close to what El Santo had in that movie. Or no, wait, I'm sorry. That's not in that one. That's the Dracula one. I'm sorry. I'm getting my Santo movies confused.
That seems
How
so
could
strange
you?
that they're so distinct.
Yeah. But the doctor one is really good because it is a pretty much, you got Helga Linnea in there. You got a bunch of Spanish actors.
No way.
And then Santo.
Wow, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
I showed my niece. I introduced my niece to Santos this week because that's what I use these for. When AC's like, "Come on and talk about these old bad," I'm like, "Yeah, okay." I'm going to use it to brainwash the next generation to watching this crap.
Nice.
We did this. We did Dracula's Treasure versus Frankenstein. The fun one with that, the woman that plays Dr. Frankenstein was Santo love interest in the second or third movie, like 20 years before.
Oh wow!
I didn't even realize it until this week. We watched that, and I totally brain farted on which one it was. I was like, it's the same woman. I've seen these movies like a dozen times, and I never realized.
Dracula's Treasure. Didn't we do that one as a Turkey Day, John?
Yeah. We've done that one, and we did the Killers from Outer Space, or the Blob one.
Was Dracula's Treasure the friends he made along the way?
I mean, it was for me. So that's all that matters, right?
AC, can I interrupt real quick? I want to explain my T-shirt.
Carry on.
So my T-shirt has like
Hang on, I'll zoom in.
Dracula. Yeah, there you go. There we go. So this is actually a poster made for a book that's coming out. There's gonna be a Kickstarter for it in February called Luchadores versus Everything, and it's a book that I'm involved with, and my friend Viviana Garcia Besna, who's restored these Santo films, is a major contributor. Obviously, it's basically the book is going to be about her story of getting these films, being aware of them, encountering the archive of her family that had these films, the story of her restoring them, getting them out there. I'll be part of the book as well. So we actually have a website called Luchadores versus Everything.com. And so we'll be kicking off this Kickstarter here in February to get this book made. And this will tell us, this in the book will be the journey of getting these films restored and in front of audiences again.
You got one backer right here, dude. I'm so in.
So I just wanted to promote that because it fits in with this whole Santo story, the story of her family fighting to restore these films in spite of everybody looking down at them.
Thank you so much, Raul. I will make sure we include that link below in the description of this video. All right, well, let's circle back around, offer our final thoughts on Santo y Blue Demon, Contra los Monstruos. And John, let's kick things off with you.
I would just say this is a perfect entry level for an El Santo film because it gives you everything you think you're going to get. You're going to know what the theme of the movies are. You may all of a sudden go overkill because you got so many monsters in here, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is the thing for me. Like, this movie is the pinnacle of the Santo Mountain. And so I'm kind of like everything else, like, well, there's only like 2 monsters. What the hell? Jorge, how about you?
I'll quote Blue Demon. Good will always win over evil. That's it.
Raul?
This is an essential El Santo film. So, and, El Santo and Blue Demon in real life are actually friends, even though they fought several times. But and Blue Demon had his own kind of line of films as well that were very successful. So this whole movie just makes sense.
Dave?
These are just the quintessential, not just B movies, but Mexican cinema. This was the introduction. Like, I'm a huge fan of Mexican noir, and if I hadn't seen Santo, I never would have gotten there.
That's cool. And Robin?
As much as the powers that be may not want them to be, they're a big part of like the cinematic backbone of Mexico. And if you're only gonna watch one Santo movie, this would be the one. It kind of gives you all the hits in a big way without some of the downtime that may be present in other ones. It's a ton of fun. There's nothing really to not like. You have a party and you need something to play that people are going to be entertained by, slap this puppy on and nobody's going to be bored, I promise.
Thank you all so much. And I hope everybody has an amazing Turkey Day. Thank you all so much for coming on and talking about Santo y Blue Demon, and looking forward to having you all on again very soon. And until next time, keep searching, keep exploring, and keep sharing the scare.